novel. Who directed? Robert Wise. I was blanking on his name for a moment. Robert Wise directed it. Also directed the original The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is a fantastic sci-fi movie. Ended up doing The Sound of Music, I think, right after The Haunting. But this version, the direction, the cinematography, which is in beautiful black and white, the sound design, the special effects, all of them are fantastic. And it very much plays up on your fears without showing you a whole lot. And that's why I think it's great. And it's a good Halloween watch. I watched it on Halloween last year. I'm kind of planning on watching it on Halloween this year, depending on what's going on or what else might be available. But I highly recommend that, and skip the remake because it's trash.
Is the remake, real quick, is that with the main, with the girl from The Conjuring, the actress?
Yeah, Lily Taylor.
Yeah.
Lily Taylor, and then Owen Wilson is in it. And I remember we talked about the trailer for that movie, like, kind of gives away, like, some big plot points. And a big, like, a major death in the movie. It gives it away in the trailer. And I just remember being so angry with it. And then, you know, I sit down and watch the original years later and am blown away by just how good it is for a movie that virtually shows you nothing. But it's still scary. So those are my two Halloween picks. I know that Invasion of the Body Snatchers is more of a sci-fi paranoia movie, but it's a good Halloween watch if you're in the mood. And then I don't want to shout out too much stuff, but I just did a rewatch of the Danny McBride television universe on HBO, and rewatched Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals and The Righteous Gemstones. And I just want to shout out The Righteous Gemstones because as much as I love the other two, I think The Righteous Gemstones is the best one. And I think a major part of that, obviously, is Walton Goggins, who was on Vice Principals, who is great on both shows. But also, and I may have shouted her out last year when we were talking about Knives Out, because she was in Knives Out. But I want to shout out Edie Patterson, who plays Judy Gemstone, and she was on Vice Principals as well. But she is so good in the show at just being as much of a jerk as Danny McBride. And the last episode of that season, which was 9 episodes, they were supposed to have a second season, but I think the pandemic threw everything off. So hopefully they come back next year, or at least 2 years from now. But the last episode of the season, she has a fantastic monologue that is really creepy and dark, but the way that she delivers the monologue, it's like she's delivering it in a romantic comedy movie. And it's so funny, but when you actually think and listen to what she's saying and think about it, it's really weird and fucked up. But she's fantastic on the show, and I don't think the show would be as great if she wasn't on it, so I want to give her a shout. And those are my recs.
Nice. That one's on HBO right now, right?
Yeah. It's they were all on demand. All 3 shows were on demand for HBO Max. If you have that, if not, you can probably find them on Amazon.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And now for the movie focus of the week.
Alright, so this week we're talking about Get Shorty. It's rated R. It's from 1995. It's a comedy drama. It runs at 1 hour and 45 minutes, and it's got a smooth 88 on Rotten. Directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. Written by Scott Frank. Starring John Travolta, Gene Hackman, Rene Russo, Delroy Lindo, Dennis Farina, Danny DeVito, and the late James Gandolfini. The film centers around Chili Palmer, a cinephile loan shark from Miami who is asked to reclaim a past dead in Hollywood. After arriving in LA, he decides to make a turn as a film producer, but he quickly learns the movie industry has various parallels with the gangster lifestyle. So, Chris, tell us why you wanted to talk about this film.
That's a good intro for it. Just let me tell you that. I want to talk about this movie because this is a movie that I saw when it came out in 1995, which is, holy shit, 25 years ago now. I don't know how much your listeners pay attention, but I am a decade older than you are.
Yep, that's true.
So I was in high school when the movie came out. But I've loved it ever since I first saw it. I'm a big Elmore Leonard fan. This is how I got into Elmore Leonard, was because I love this movie so much. And oh man, like, the performances in it are fantastic. The dialogue, a lot of it is carried over from the book. There's so many great lines in the film. It's really funny. And your title of the episode, what is it? What did I tell you?
The Cadillac of Comedies.
The Cadillac of Comedies, which is a reference to a line in the movie. But it's one of my favorite movies, and it's one that I've been kind of telling people to watch if they haven't seen it, because I don't know how well known the movie is at this point in time, being as old as it is.
Yeah.
But watch the movie if you haven't seen it, because it's great, and all of the performances in it are so good, and it's one of I think the best mainstream comedies out there.
Definitely. I know it. This did make money when it came out. It wasn't a financial failure by any means.
No, it was a modest hit. I wouldn't call it a big hit. But it was a modest hit, and I mean, everyone is great in it. I wish that it was a bigger hit.
Excuse me. What I would think is maybe it's just too, because it has a very sleek kind of noir feel to it.
Yeah.
And that's not everybody. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that narrative sometimes, so you could chalk it up to maybe that. Not taking away from the film whatsoever. I love the dialogue. I think it's a great story. I love how everybody takes themselves so seriously in the film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. That's where the comedy really breathes through, is because nobody is trying to be funny, in my opinion.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Everyone is playing it straight, and the comedy is all in the dialogue.
Yes.
Everyone is playing it straight, and that's why it works. And I think that's true for a lot of comedies that are great, is that you can't really set out to have everyone do and say funny shit for 90 minutes. You gotta have people who are super serious and like totally being the straight man in the movie, and then have everything funny happen around them. And that's one of the big reasons. You hit the nail right on the head there. That's one of the big reasons why Get Shorty works. And even if and we'll get into it in a little bit, if you've seen some of the other Elmore Leonard adaptations, that's a big reason why they work, is because they're not necessarily... Get Shorty is more of a comedy than the other Elmore Leonard books and adaptations. But all those adaptations, those movies, a few of them which are fantastic, all are playing it straight, but then there's either funny lines of dialogue or something funny and unexpected will happen that makes you laugh out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for as many times as I've seen Jackie Brown, it's not supposed to be a comedy, But there's a ton of funny stuff in Jackie Brown.
Yeah, where it's like it makes you question whether it was really even intentional or not. But there's these little quirks and things that just work and resonate on film. It's very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll get into some of the Elmore Leonard adaptations here in a moment. But we've talked about this before on one of your podcasts that we did together when we talked about Seven.
Oh,
which
yeah.
was, Jesus, almost 3 years ago now?
Yeah, that's hard to believe, but
Holy
yeah.
shit.
It's been a long time.
So I brought it up when we talked about Seven, which came out in 1995, as did Get Shorty, as you pointed out at the top of the show. 1995, I'll say it again, was a great year for film. So I read you a list 3 years ago when we did Seven. I'll read you a list again now. In 1995, you have Seven, you have Casino, you have Heat, you have Friday, you have Braveheart, you have 12 Monkeys, Dead Presidents, Toy Story, Usual Suspects, Strange Days, which I love so much, To Die For, which I told you to shout out a while back, like when Buck Henry died. Apollo 13, GoldenEye, all those movies came out in 1995, so a huge year for just a ton of great movies.
Movies that have longevity, too.
Yeah. Any one of those you could sit down and rewatch right now or pick up from wherever you caught it. All of them are fantastic. I own all of them. So I cannot stress how great a year that was. 94 and 95 were pretty solid. There was a ton of great stuff coming out those years. So we mentioned that this was adapted from an Elmore Leonard novel.
Yep.
He was a prolific writer. He wrote a lot of westerns kind of early on, and then kind of got more into like the crime and tough guy novels. And I've got a bunch of them. I've read maybe half of the ones I do have. Love them all. But he's unfortunately dead now. He died in 2013, and I remember being bummed.
2013, that was
Even that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Time flies, man. Time flies. So there's kind of two inspirations for the main character, for the Chili Palmer character, who's the main character in Get Shorty, who Travolta plays.
Uh-huh.
One of which was a guy named Chili Palmer, who was a private investigator. He makes a cameo appearance in the movie, and we'll shout it out when we start kind of recapping the film.
Okay.
But the other guy that was the main inspiration was a Detroit bookmaker by the name of Stan Atkins, who Leonard knew from Detroit because Elmore Leonard lived in Detroit. And if you pay attention to a lot of his work, it either takes place in Detroit or people end up in Detroit or are from Detroit. I think in Jackie Brown, Robert De Niro's character, Louis Garza, says that he knew Ordell back in Detroit. Out of Sight takes place in Detroit. The last act of Out of Sight is in Detroit. But this guy, Stan Atkins, knew Elmore Leonard, and he was a bookmaker. And he ended up moving to Hollywood and becoming a producer, so he was kind of the main inspiration for the Chili Palmer character. And then, obviously, the namesake, Chili Palmer, who makes an appearance in the film. But Elmore Leonard had been adapted a few times before Get Shorty. And some of them are, you might know some of them aren't as well known. I think Get Shorty was kind of the movie that made him well known in Hollywood. But he had been adapted before in the 50s because he wrote the original story that 310 to Yuma is based on.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a novel called Hombre